Let's talk about Ancient Mother. That's a pretty important thing to mention. Uh, Ancient Mother is another artwork that you might have spotted in there, and it's basically the mother of all Senufo people, and she's the image of Ancient Mother is used during the initiations of men into boys. The men will be secluded. Boys will be secluded in this sort of area where they'll actually crawl through like a tunnel, and then they'll be taught all the secrets of the Poro. And one of the tunnels that they crawl through is actually called the Old Woman's Vagina. I'm not joking. I'm quite serious about that. But yeah, when you crawl through the Old Woman's Vagina, you are born again. Because when you are separated from your earthly mother, you are ritually killed, basically. And then you're born again through Ancient Mother when you graduate, so to speak. When you have learned the ancient and important rules of the Poro society. So that's pretty fascinating, I think. One other thing, we might go back and forth about certain things. I might reference more. There's one other thing for now, though, that I want to mention about the Senufo is they have these houses. Actually, there's two types of houses I'll mention. One is the Senufo is the Poro house, I should say, which you might have seen in there. It's this hut that has very thick raffia-esque material on top. I think it's raffia, probably is. And the many layers are to protect the sacred objects. Though that's not always the case for some Senufo. Some Senufo, more traditionally, will put it in a grove. Their artworks will be in a grove. But yeah, another Senufo architecture is I believe it's called a Kpa'a. Let me check. Am I right on that? Kapala. Yeah. That was close. Anyway, the Kapala is a men's meeting house. And what I find fascinating about that is, like the Senufo's men house, there's also a very similar thing in Dogon, in the lands of the Dogon, called a Toguna. And I just wanted to point that out because I love when I find connections between two African peoples like that. Like, it's funny. It's a lot of books and a lot of books about Africa will obsess over, or in my opinion, they seem to obsess over when they find a connection between Africa and sub-Saharan Africa and Egypt. Like, they always point that out. And even myself, I'll notice that from time to time, the connections. But what I find more interesting is just finding connections between the two sub-Saharan African groups. But yeah, so the Toguna and the Kapa'ala, very similarly constructed, which points to a shared ancestry there. And we will talk more about the Dogon, I'm sure, because Dogon are very fascinating people as well. So let's talk about video games for now. So yeah, obviously I'm a Zelda fan. Could you possibly guess what my favorite Zelda game is? I wonder what it could be. And yes, I know it's missing its horns over there, but if I complete Majora's Mask, then it might come alive and destroy the world. But yeah, obviously Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game. Even though it doesn't have Ganon in it. But why I love Majora's Mask is because it's so different from all the other Zelda games that come before it. And yeah, obviously I love the masks too. Though if you have heard online that Majora's Mask is heavily inspired by Africa, that is wrong. It may have very, very small inspiration from Africa, but not much, to be honest. I would know. I've been studying Africa for a long time, and boy would I be excited if there was like some serious like African references in Majora's Mask, but no. You could vaguely say that there is some in terms of the fact that the masks in Majora's Mask do what they would normally do in African society, which is to transform you into a spirit, whether that spirit be an ancestor, a god, or a nature spirit. But that's very general, and that sort of idea can be found in other parts of the world too. So what I would say is Majora's Mask is referencing a very generic idea of what tribal cultures are like. That is what I would say. And how do we define tribal? And this is why I try not to use the word tribe when I'm talking about the African peoples, because, for example, a good example is, look at the Yoruba. The Yoruba have massive cities. They have kings. Who else has that? The British. The British have kings. They have massive cities. Have you ever heard someone say a British tribe? No, the British people. So when I try, most of the time, and I may say tribe from time to time, most of the time I'll refer to African people as people and not as a tribe. Now, you may have noticed I wound up painting off camera a bit, so there's quite a bit more on there now. Hopefully that's alright. Hopefully no one minds, but yeah, I did some painting off camera. So let's talk about Ganon. My favorite Ganon is gotta be Ocarina of Time Ganon, dude. Ocarina of Time Ganon, that is epicness right there. First time we saw Ganon in 3D, yo, that was an intense battle, man. That was intense. Though I do also really enjoy the music for Ganon and Twilight Princess. That was pretty dope, man. Did I just say dope? Who the f*** says dope anymore? I can't believe I used that term. But anyway, point is, the drumming and the chanting and that, yo, really good. Really freaking good. We're going to paint the tusks right now. That's why I was mixing up the yellows for. That's a little too peachy. That's a little too peachy. I want more of a yellowish, whitish. Probably put too much brown in there. I think that's why. Where was I? But yeah, Ocarina of Time. That's definitely the most epic Ganon. As for Ganondorf, the man, pretty easy choice too. Wind Waker. Wind Waker Ganondorf easily exceeds over any other version. Because that was the first time where Ganondorf was no longer just some random evil character. You actually got a sense for the man behind the evil pig. You could actually understand him, you know? That line about the wind, when it came to our land, it scorched the earth, and at night the wind pierced our homes. Like you were like, so that's why he wound up fighting for Hyrule, because his people were suffering. It makes so much sense, you know? So I love Wind Waker Ganondorf for that reason. We finally got a sense of who he was. Unfortunately, they didn't really bother doing anything to build upon that in Twilight Princess. I wouldn't say they messed things up, but they didn't really, they added nothing to it, you know? It was just, oh, here's evil Ganondorf come to f up again. So yeah, that was kind of a letdown. But I would say what did the worst damage is Skyward Sword. Now, I'm not one of those Skyward Sword haters. I love every Zelda game, except Spirit Tracks. Seriously. Don't like Spirit Tracks. But anyway, yeah, I love Skyward Sword. And I love the fight against Demise. Yo, that is easily, in terms of gameplay, easily the funnest boss battle I've ever played. It's against Demise. I actually had to use my shield. You gotta understand, I never use my shield in Zelda games. But that dude was so hard, I actually had to use my shield. It's nuts. Love that fight. But story-wise, I felt like Demise took away from Ganondorf, because basically they state that the reason why Ganondorf is evil is because of Demise's curse. That's kind of lame. I feel like that's kind of lame, because Wind Waker gave Ganondorf all the reason he needed to act in the way that he does. He was a king from a land that was suffering because they lived in a harsh desert climate. So he coveted the lush green land of Hyrule. Made perfect sense. So why did Demise have to exist? There's no real justification for that as a character. I don't like it. But it is what it is. It's canon now. So can't really do anything about it. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on Ganondorf. Let's see. Let me take a step back and look at these horns. I guess that's about the color I want. Maybe a little more yellow. Oh, and as you can see, like I said earlier, I was going to use the warm blue and the cool blue together, and I think that creates a nice harmony. The cool blues are in the darker spots, and the warm blues are in the lighter spots. It makes sense, right? Also, thing I should point out, you see this, you know, I haven't finished it yet, but there's a cloth that's on both Ganon and Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. It's kind of a whitish, tannish brown cloth. I've darkened it up significantly here because I don't want it to distract from where I want you to look at. An artist has, and when you're an artist, you want to make sure that you know where people are going to look and how you do control that with light and color. So I had to darken that up quite a bit because I'm not interested in people focusing in on the corner. So the brightest thing on my canvas is the eye, Ganon's eye. That's where the focus should be. I was actually thinking about Breath of the Wild the other day, and I was thinking that, like, we all know that there's this whole Calamity Ganon thing, right? That's what they've revealed so far in the trailers, anyway. And it looks pretty cool. I like that gaseous form that he has, that mystical ghost-like form that he's rocking. And what I would like to see is, as many of you know, in the most recent appearances of Ganon, Ganon has been a lead up to a battle with Ganondorf. Which, I mean, in some ways that makes sense, because why not use his full strength immediately, right? But it just feels a little different and odd, because with Ocarina of Time, of course, you fought Ganondorf, then he transformed into Ganon, right? You haven't seen my most powerful form. You know, it's that whole anime thing of, like, the build up in power and power and so on during the course of the battle. Now, realistically, of course, it does make more sense to be Ganon first, but I would like to see them go back to how it used to be. So, what I think I would like to see is you face that Calamity ghost-like Ganon first, right? But then he coalesces into Ganondorf, right? That ghostly form coalesces, and in that gaseous state, like, he tries to reach out in the last breaths of his humanity to say something, like, deep, you know? And then you fight Ganondorf. Fight Ganondorf the man. But then after that battle, he just completely loses it. And then the real Ganon appears. That's who you fight as the last boss. You know? That is what I would like to see Breath of the Wild do. Another thing I'd also like to mention about Breath of the Wild is that I'd like to see a return of the Gerudo people, because we, not just Ganondorf obviously, but, you know, the Gerudo women, you know, we haven't seen them in a long time, so I'd like to see them. Breath of the Wild is freaking huge, man. They got room for it. Other than that, also the Deku from Majora's Mask. Love the Deku. I would love to see them back in action. And also, it'd be nice to see possibly a new peoples added to the game. What else would I like to see? Oh, more black people. I mean, seriously though, Skyward Sword was the first game. Well, outside of the Gerudo, it was the first game to have Hylians that were black. They had two. Well, were they actually considered Hylians in Skyward Sword? Maybe not, because Hyrule hadn't existed. But it was the first, the blacksmith that upgraded your equipment, and his mother. Those were the two first black people in Zelda history, excluding the entire peoples of the Gerudo. Which, you know, I don't want to exclude them, but I'm just saying, like, they're in a different society, whereas these are two black people who are integrated into the primarily white group that is the Hylians. So I would like to see more integration. See what I mean? Alright. Anyway. Plus, the Gerudo don't appear very often. That's also a big problem.
So this part of the dialogue was recorded after I beat Breath of the Wild, and I'm here to let you know that Breath of the Wild has more black people than Nintendo's entire history of video games combined. Good job, Nintendo. Alrighty then, please subscribe and please share this video with your friends. It would help a lot. Thank you.